So I had an interesting comment on one of my videos where I was talking about PIPs, otherwise known as performance improvement plans, otherwise known as maybe the kiss of death to your career. But I had an interesting comment from a viewer, and it was a different take on a lot of the comments I receive on this topic. And I'm going to throw it up on the screen and read it to you. I was a boss for 20 years. A PIP was never used as a trap. 100% of the time, it was after multiple attempts to get a person to meet bare minimum standards. 100% every single time. This is interesting because he's not wrong. And while we've seen time and again, and I've got lots of examples on different videos, some of which I'll link right here, that a PIP could be a setup. It could be a means to an end to get rid of you. It could also be like what this gentleman says. It could be a, hey, this is our last resort. This is about your performance, and we've told you time and again that you're not meeting the standards and you've not leveled up. So this is our last chance before you are shown the door, before you are fired. So today I wanted to take a step back from a PIP, right? Because that's what we talk about. But a good leader, like the one in today's comment, a good leader will have had lots of steps along the way before we get to PIP land. And I want to talk about those. And if you find yourself at some of those stages, what you can do. And spoiler alert, it could be a tough pill to swallow. It could be some accountability. But first, let's talk about fairness. The common belief, or a common belief, I should say, is that companies use PIPs just to get rid of people and avoid paying severance. It's just corporate greed. Now, you're not wrong, right? We've seen examples of it just this year, and I'm going to call on Meta. Meta did that. They said, we are getting rid of the bottom performers in our organization. So anybody with this performance rating of X and below, we are going to manage out of the organization. We're going to place them on PIPs. And if they don't succeed, they're going to be shown the door. Could that be a way to reduce staff and save money without doing severance? Perhaps. The get out of jail free card that happens here is that Meta's doing it consistently and basing it on fact and numbers. But again, let's be real. What is a PIP? It is documentation. It is documentation that you gave the employee a warning in the form of you are not meeting these expectations. Here's what you need to do. And here's the follow through. And here are the expectations going forward. Most people think, and I've seen this movie before, that once you're on that PIP, the writing is on the wall. It's screaming in neon at you that your days at this company are numbered. The likely outcome of this performance plan is that you will be separated from the company. So here's what you can control. You can't control, first of all, that you are on one of these, somewhere on the spectrum of performance management, whether it be a warning, whether it be a performance improvement plan. You can't control that. You can, by performance, but if the decision has been made, you can't control that. But you can control how you respond to this. Do you respond professionally? Do you take feedback well? A letter of warning, a verbal warning, or whatever it is, a coaching doesn't have to be a death sentence. It just could be a pivot point for you. Everybody loves a comeback story. I can't tell you how many times I've been in a talent discussion where we're talking about our talent and somebody who was struggling suddenly has turned things around because they got some feedback. And everybody is really interested about that. They're like, wow, that employee took feedback well and they've made some adjustments and now they're killing it. But I will say on the flip side of that, if you do feel that you are being treated unfairly, especially if you're being treated unfairly because of a protected class, race, gender, sexual orientation, or whatever it is, I would highly encourage you. I'm not an attorney, but I would say seek out an employment attorney, get a consultation, maybe talk to the EEOC, maybe start with your internal complaint mechanisms, whether it's HR, and I know what you're going to say, you don't trust HR, HR is not your friend, but HR works for the company, and if you're bringing them a problem that could result in litigation down the road, they're going to wake up and want to mitigate that and want to stop that behavior. So in that point, they could be an ally for you. If you don't feel comfortable talking to them, maybe your employer has an ethics hotline. Maybe your employer has a compliance team that you could go to. Those could be some avenues to kind of help you overcome the scenario you're in. But again, you've got to take some accountability. You can't go in there and say, oh, my boss is treating me unfairly and I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm the model employee. Really? Are you? look back and really think objectively of the feedback you've gotten. Are you actually killing it? And if you are, I would argue you wouldn't find yourself with a letter of warning unless something else is going on that is untoward or nefarious. And that would lead you to a valid complaint with the HR or the ethics line. What happens before you actually end up on a performance improvement plan? So in a good company with a good leader, like the comment we started this video with, is they're going to start coaching you, right? And saying it could start with a performance review where you're talking about, hey, here are your wins for the year. Here's some things you need to work on, right? If you're not paying attention to this stuff, then the next time you're meeting with your boss, we've still got some discrepancies to overcome. Here, what are you doing? What do you need help with to overcome those things? If you're still ignoring it, then they're going to get more structured. They're going to have a formal verbal coaching or a formal verbal warning, which will include documentation. You know that it's taking a turn for you when there's direct consequences involved. If they're saying, hey, this is X, Y, and Z performance issues we've been discussing for this amount of time, if you do not correct them or make substantive changes to your performance in X amount of time, these are the consequences up to and including termination. Next comes a written warning, right? Now it's a formal document that says a lot of what the verbal warning said, but it's escalating. And then some companies actually have a final written warning, right? So this is saying the next step could be either termination or a performance plan. And it could be for anything. It could be for your attitude. It could be for, missed deadlines, chronic tardiness. It could be for you're not meeting your deliverables. And here's what I would say. A good boss, the key here is it's good. A good boss is there to help you be successful, to help you achieve your goals, to remove barriers. So if you've got some problems and you've got a good trusting relationship with your boss, let them know what's going on before it becomes a performance problem for you. So as an example, say your deliverables are contingent upon your successful relationships with key stakeholders throughout the company. But some of these people aren't getting you the stuff you need to do to meet your deadlines. If that's a barrier to success for you, go talk to your boss about it. If you've got a good relationship with your boss that is founded in trust, you can go to them with this type of scenario and they will help you be successful there, and you can hopefully turn it around. Managers don't want to write PIPs. Remember, if you've been watching my channel for a while, I told you the story of Mindy, and I'll link the videos here that I did on her story. That manager put her on a plan. She was blindsided with it and then wanted her to write the PIP. I still am baffled by that. They couldn't even do part of their job and actually put something on a piece of paper. They just tossed it at the employee and said, here, you go write it yourself. I'm not going to go into the rest of the story. Check out the videos and you can kind of see why I was a bit outraged. But thankfully, Mindy's doing well and she actually stayed. But that's another story. Check out the video. But nobody wants to go through this. I've talked to countless managers where they don't want to do it. They actually will avoid doing it until they have to do it, until somebody above them is holding their feet to the fire because they have an employee who's a low performer and they're not actively managing that performance. That's when they will engage. Here's where things go off the rails. It's when the employee reacts negatively to these, right? And you may be absolutely justified in your reaction, right? You're in a threat state, right? Somebody's calling you on your performance, and that could lead to a termination. That could impact your livelihood and your career and countless other things. So you get put in a threat state. I would say, I hear you. I empathize with you, but as best as you can, whether it's a verbal warning or a coaching conversation or being put on a performance improvement plan, do your best to remain calm, professional, ask questions for clarity so you understand, and sometimes ask for examples, right? Saying, hey, what exactly you're talking about, I didn't meet deliverables. Can we talk about the specific examples that led to us talking about this as a performance issue? That's a very valid question. The other thing to do, if you're in the moment and you feel yourself getting outraged or whatever it is, try to remain professional and then put a pin in it, sleep on it, think about it, and come back the next day and have another conversation about it, because you'll be more thoughtful. You'll show up well. If you're reacting emotionally, aggressively, or angry, or even violent, I've seen that. That's going to say to your manager and to the organization, this person isn't coachable. They're not willing to take accountability for their performance deficiencies, and therefore we might accelerate this performance improvement plan and get them out of the company sooner than later, because the way their behavior is signaling to us that they are not interested in changing and they're not interested in improving. And I get it. There are scenarios that absolutely seem unfair. You feel like, as an example, your peer is not being held to the same scrutiny, to the same standards you are. And therefore you're suddenly under the gun and you're like, well, what about him over there? Why aren't they on a PIP? Why aren't they getting a letter of warning? They might be, you're just unaware of it. And there, you could say, well, Rob, I've talked to them and they told me they're not getting this type of scrutiny. I hear you. I would offer that many times they won't tell you that, because that puts them in a bad light. And they may actually be held to the same standard, and they're just not telling you because they don't want to look bad. Just a thought. What can you do? Now, if you've made it this far, you may be angry. Tell me in the comments. I welcome the dialogue. But what can you do if you find yourself being called on the carpet for your performance? The first thing it is take accountability. Really look back objectively. If you're like, hey, yeah, I did F up this. I didn't deliver on time, or I've been consistently late, or whatever the scenario is. If you can own part of what's going on and say, you know what? I actually didn't do this well, and here are the changes I'm going to make. That is a perfect way to rebuild trust. That will signal to your boss or to the organization, the broader organization, that, hey, you do take feedback well. You are coachable. Talk about it. Talk about it calmly and ask for examples, ask for specifics. I think you are absolutely in your right. Have a dialogue with your boss. If your boss is just like, nope, this is it, sign it. I'm not going to be here to support you. I'm not interested in a dialogue further. That's the time it's a huge red flag. You should go talk to HR, especially if they're not in the equation, and say, hey, this has happened. My boss told me this. They're not supporting me. What do I do? So then, okay, now you've owned it, right? And the next thing you need to do is you've owned it. Now you want to signal what you're going to do. So tell your boss, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z to overcome what we've been talking about. Great. You're signaling your behavior. Now actually go do it. And then you've got to be your own cheerleader here. Your boss may be blissfully unaware that you've got some wins, and start celebrating those wins. Over communicate, saying, hey, I did this today. Here was the outcome. Just keeping you in the loop, or something small like that. So you're keeping them aware of what's going on and what actions you're taking to correct some of the performance problems. Then I am a big fan of this. Seek some support. You can go to HR. I firmly believe that a good HR person will be a good coach for you, be a good career navigating support for you. But if you don't trust them, I get it. Find a coach, somebody you value. Find a mentor, somebody else that can kind of look at things objectively and help you work through it. And then receive feedback gracefully. That's the biggest one here. In addition to owning what your performance problems are, it's also how you receive feedback. A good talk track about you is that, yeah, we had a conversation with Tom. He took the feedback, he's putting a plan in place, and he's actually turning things around. That's a great story. Like I've said before, everybody loves a comeback story. But if the story then becomes, oh no, they got aggressive, they were really angry, and they didn't want to hear anything I had to say, suddenly that is the talk track. So again, I will underline, it's all about how you respond to the feedback, both in the moment and in the days and weeks that you're trying to turn things around. So really keep that in mind, because it could make a huge difference whether you turn things around at the company or you exit stage right. What I've had it with today is people who don't take accountability, and that could be a manager, that could be an employee. And I've got two examples today, is one of which we have an employee here at the small business that I run, and he doesn't take accountability. Something got broken in work and he tried to hide it. He tries to blame other people. all you have to do is say, hey, this got broken. I'm so sorry. This won't happen again, et cetera, et cetera. It didn't have to be an issue. But there was all these smoke and mirrors, all this drama about something trivial. Like it was a trinket that got broke and he didn't own it. He just wanted to blame somebody else. And that's his MO. So I've just had it with people like that who can't just say, yes, it was my mistake. You're still going to build trust by doing that, by owning it, than you would by deflecting. And now I don't trust the employee who actually just wants to deflect and put up smoke and mirrors and not take accountability. Then the other one where, this was when I was at Starbucks. I'll try to give you the abridged version of this example, but I had an employee who was a bit junior and her manager had left the organization. So she was now directly reporting to me. And I was actually thought she was a high performer. I was giving her a stretch assignment, right, to kind of step into this new space and see what she could do and maybe actually inform a promotion for her. But she didn't like that she felt I was absentee. So instead of actually having a conversation with me, she went to my boss. And what I did with my boss was, first I got over the shock that actually happened because it totally blindsided me, if I'm being honest. And then I said, in the moment, you know what? I own it. I didn't communicate well with her. I assumed she knew that I had trust in her, that I had faith in her capabilities to actually level up a bit. And that was a blind spot for me. And I immediately walked out of that office, owned it to the employee, and then put a plan in place where she felt she was more supported and could actually do the job and where I needed to lean in a bit more than I had been. I saved face there. I was pissed about it. I'm not going to lie. I was pissed about it. I pushed that down. And I really thought about how am I going to react to this situation. But I have totally had it with people just deflecting smoke and mirrors and putting up, just this false facade and not just saying, yes, I did this wrong. I dropped a ball and here's what I'm going to do better in the future. So not every performance conversation, not every PIP is a setup. Many of them are, but some aren't. And it could be the company is signaling to you that, hey, we've talked about these things. Time is running out. So we're going to actually amp up and formalize kind of our performance management process and still give you the opportunity to turn things around. It's all how you respond. If you own your deficiencies, and we've all got deficiencies, we've all got areas to improve, that's going to be a better scenario and probably yield a better outcome for you than denying, blaming, all the other things that are low trust behaviors, because you're going to lose trust very quickly with the management team. If you are at the point of being put on a performance improvement plan, can you turn it around? Absolutely, you can. Is it going to be tough? Very tough. And even if you come off that, it's still going to be a little bit of a scarlet letter on you. You can't backslide. If you come off successfully, you can't just put things on cruise control again and say, oh, dodge that bullet. No, you've got to keep up that higher level of performance that enabled you to come off successfully from that PIP. So with that, if you like this type of content, I would absolutely be honored if you would like this video and subscribe to my channel. Let me know in the comments what you're going through, and if I can help, I would be happy to do that. I do answer most or all of the comments on my channel. And if you are under a boss in a company where you're absolutely thriving and you're killing it, I wish you continued success. If you do find yourself under the gun, you can turn it around. Just think about how you respond to everything. And then if you are unemployed or looking for a job, I wish for you it would be a very short process and that you actually land a job that you want and that matches your career goals. And until next time, my name's Rob, and take care. This video was recorded and produced by Just Talk Studios, the premier video podcasting studio in Bellevue, Washington. Visit justtalkstudios.com to learn more and book your session today.